What happens to the economy is that the pandemic forces us to stop a lot of economic activities. That causes a lot of trouble. First of all, a lot of people lose their jobs, lose their income, so they have to be helped. At the same time, enterprises are also hurting. They lose sales, they still incur some costs. So in order to save these enterprises from failing, they need help. So that's what the aid package does.
So to you, it's not more like a stimulus package, it's more like an aid package.
It's very different from the normal stimulus package. Normally, the economy needs a stimulus package when there is a negative demand shock. When people suddenly stopped purchasing, then a lot of production capacity is wasted. There's no demand, but we still have capacity to supply. In that case, we create demand to balance out the economy. But in this case, the supply is hit. People cannot produce anymore. So we need to help people to overcome this period in which production is basically stopped.
Professor, let's turn to the Chinese economy first, because we know latest numbers from the National Bureau of Statistics has shown that the economy has been slowed in the past 2 months, but generally speaking, it still withstood the impact from the COVID-19. So what are the factors that do you think have got the most affected from this outbreak? It is more of the challenges from the supply side, or it is more the risks from the demand side?
During the period of the pandemic, it's a supply side shock. Production is halted in many cases, especially services. I think that's the main reason why production slowed down. As you suggested, in the first 2 months, industrial output decreased by around 13.5% compared to the same period last year. Services decreased more. In February, a lot of things are suspended, so that's why GDP growth dropped.
That is why, the expectations are high about China will have like a bounce back in its economic growth after the outbreak. How feasible do you think that is, or how quickly do you think we're likely to see that?
If there were no outside or external shocks, which we have, because in other countries the pandemic is breaking out. If we didn't have that, I think our economy will relatively quickly bounce back, because it's not that long. Normally, after spring break, the economic activity doesn't resume normal for a while. So the actual period of loss is not that long. I would say it's from the 15th of the Spring Festival on. That's the real loss period. Given all the measures we have been taking and some measures that have been planned, I think the economy can bounce back.
But yeah, the fact is that we are having negative effects from other countries, and that is why there's concerns that whether Chinese economy will be dragging down to another or the second round of economic downturn.
Yes.
Will that happen?
Yeah. There is a risk of that. However, we need to be careful, because if China can recover, other countries' economy can also recover. Maybe a little bit slower, but eventually, I think, they will recover. Given what we observe their governments are doing at the G20 meeting, the governments pledged $5 trillion of aid. Given that aid, if that's well implemented, that will stop the hemorrhage from the economy. Then firms will not fail on large scale, and people will get their jobs back after the end of the pandemic. Then the world economy will basically resume the normal pace. Then at that time, we need to be ready to resume normal pace as well. So if we make 2 big moves during this period, we may regret, because after a few months, things get back to normal. If those big moves we are moving now makes it harder for us to change course again, then it's difficult for us to meet the normal demand.